My name is Thibaut. I lived in Burundi and South Africa before moving to Luxembourg.
I'm Morgana, I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I moved to Luxembourg a few years ago.
My name is Nicholas, originally from Switzerland. I moved to Luxembourg 2 years ago.
I'm Diana. I moved 3 years ago from Lisbon, and so far it's been quite a ride.
I think Luxembourg is a very good place to develop your financial career because you have all the global big players here.
We get exposure to high-profile clients that you probably would not have the chance to meet if it wasn't for being here.
Moving to Luxembourg was easy. There are a lot of expats, so you'll easily become friends with your work colleagues.
In summer, the city is crowded, the parks are full, there are a lot of festivals, a lot of different people. It's very international and this is pretty exciting.
What I love about living in Luxembourg is how nearly anything you want to do you can find. I like to write, and I found this great literary cafe where I can meet with other writers and get their feedback and we can discuss each other's work. I like to visit art galleries, and there's always some kind of exhibition going on as well.
Growing up around the world gave me a sense of responsibility and a need to act. And this is why working in sustainable finance here enables me to tie in my personal ethos with my career aspirations.
People keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible, making sure that Luxembourg keeps its position as a market leader.
Networking is very important here. I was part of an event for women in finance and I got to meet a lot of my peers, which is also very nice to meet other women in the industry.
One of my personal favorites here in Luxembourg is the ability to just take my bike after work, ride into the sunset and clear my mind. It helps me to disconnect after a long day.
For me, important in a job is to be part of a team, not just a single player. And this is also what I really like about basketball. You need to rely on each other, hold each other's back.
When I'm not at work, my favorite thing to do is to ride my motorcycle through the countryside. It helps me to escape a bit the routine of office work and gives you a sense of freedom.
I think people are really looking for jobs that give them a sense of purpose and a sense of fulfillment, but also allow them to have their own personal lives, and this is something you can definitely find here.
Welcome to Focus On, bringing together financial industry experts of different horizons, sharing and discussing their insights.
Hello everybody and welcome to our live stream. Today we will talk about the future jobs and skills in finance. More than ever, financial services play a crucial role in our economies. From managing the economic consequences of recent geopolitical events to financing the growth of businesses around the globe, the financial sector's importance is set to grow, especially as it also plays a key role in the transition to a net zero global economy. And to meet the current and future demands, the sector is evolving. Technology and sustainability are leading the drive, but also new innovations are accelerating the pace of change. And these developments are not only altering the way people engage with financial services, they are also changing the talent needs within the sector. And in our recently published report about the skills and jobs in finance, LHoFT has examined the shifts and has also highlighted the notable mismatch between the current skills and those that will be required in the next 5 years. Advanced data analysis, mathematical skills are very high on the agendas of employers, but also reskilling programs are put in place to build necessary critical thinking skills as well as leadership skills. And that's exactly what we will focus on in the next 60 minutes with the experts from across the financial services industry that will join me here in the studio. And whether you are a student looking to kickstart your career in finance, or you're an employee looking to maybe shift the direction of your career in finance, or an employer, recruiter searching for the right talent and the right skills, today's speakers will provide you with the knowledge on how they go forward in this area. Enjoy the live stream. And our first guest is Michael Fox, Managing Director of the Luxembourg branch of JP Morgan Bank. Michael, welcome to the studio.
Great, thank you for the invitation here today, Lynn. I'm very excited to talk about skills.
I know that talent and skills are topics very close to your heart. And if I'm not mistaken, you joined JP Morgan already in 1993, which means that next year you will be 30 years with the bank. And that also means that you have covered many senior roles within the firm, and an excellent guest to also start this event.
Well, thank you for saying that. Wow, 30 years, it does make me sound very old. But yes, I am a product of development, continued development of skills, and being relevant to what's in demand today, hopefully. And I'd like to share that back. So yes, I'm very excited to speak about that here today.
Now, the need for skills and expertise in financial services isn't entirely a new phenomenon. However, it seems that now it's more than ever on people's minds. Why is that?
It's a good question, and things change. And if I think about market forces, then as we're looking at the financial environment, then over the past number of years, if we think about things, Brexit, regulation and that demand, innovation through technology, and also the behaviour of our clients, all of that has radically changed. And if we look into the future, I think that change is going to happen even faster. So the key is, how do we make Luxembourg relevant to all of that change? And importantly, people are the key to answer to that change.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at current and future needs, what are and will be the key skills in banking, asset management?
Yeah. If we look at the skills in demand today, and those look like compliance, understanding of regulation, they look like governance and oversight. They can look like product development and client service too, but probably in smaller numbers. And then you've got your traditional skills of fund accountant, transfer agency, and clearly in that conducting officers and some advisory too. If we think about the future, we mentioned technology, ESG is now a theme as well. The value curve, I think, and the demand of individuals will change. So there's definitely technical competencies which will need to be developed to align to that global demand. But importantly, I think, rather moving from a production environment to advisory, then the kind of skill sets that I'm imagining are required are more cognitive, soft skills. So I think about strategy, I think about commercialization, I think about leadership, collaboration, EQ skills like listening, empathy. They're all important tools in the box to match to a technical requirement to leave people best placed to provide that value in the future.
And where lie currently the biggest skills gaps?
So as we look at the skills today, they certainly are around the compliance areas. They certainly are around the ability to bring in people to manage to that client future demand. So we're talking development, technology in the cybersecurity space, understanding of distributed ledger technology, so that can be applied to real use cases. So I think that those are emerging demands which are still difficult to satisfy at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned technology. In many ways, finance firms have become tech firms. That also means that they are directly competing for the same talent with the Googles and the Amazons of this world. Now, if someone is watching this live stream and questioning the pros and cons, what would you say are the advantages of the financial sector?
Well, certainly we operate in some of the same space. So if I think about the firms that you've mentioned, great top-tier institutions that are now starting to emerge to rival traditional banks. So if we think about payment providers, if we think about the ability to provide asset management options, then either through collaboration or building out, then they provide those services too. Now, clearly that's a core space for us as financial institutions, highly regulated. And so there is definitely overlap in the space within the market for all of those players. What I can say from a financial, and again, as someone who's worked within a bank for 30 years, it can offer the ability to see the spectrum of financial services from asset management through to payments, security services, investment banking, and so on. And with many of the financial organisations, particularly here in Luxembourg, we're part of a larger organisation too. So the ability to be able to be mobile, the ability to be able to travel your career through many of those different groups and service provisions that I mentioned. And again, I'm a product of that. I've managed and been through different locations, different lines of businesses. So I think that the scale that a bank can offer, I think that the resilience a bank can offer through economic cycles as well, and the options for personal development. Now, I know that financial institutions focus on that to actually then be able to get the best out of the people and provide for them to actually achieve their potential. The other firms do that as well, don't get me wrong, but I think that the scale and magnitude of the larger financial organisations can provide for that.
Now, it has to be mentioned that a number of repetitive jobs have already disappeared due to automation. Going forward, which jobs will be most vulnerable to further disappear or change?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think if we look back, very few jobs just simply get eliminated. Jobs can be outsourced to other locations, which, if you look at our history here within Luxembourg, there would have been much that would have done within Luxembourg in an end-to-end environment, take fund accounting as an example. But the option to outsource to lower cost locations then allows us to focus on the individual, to actually allow that individual to provide more value, to actually use cognitive understanding, to have a look at data, for example, to gain client insights. These people will understand the service to be able to think about its redesign for future development. So I think, and I see that within our own organisation, that as we eliminate administration manual tasks, then we're able to focus on the higher value, we're able to think about our clients' demand, and we're able to use that institutionalised and regulatory knowledge that we have within Luxembourg to be able to design future products within a global company like JP Morgan or other financial institutions. So I see it playing a very important part. I don't see jobs, people being eliminated. I see potentially roles changing and again, added further value.
How much of this transformation can be addressed via upskilling?
Upskilling is key, but not the only contribution. I think about both the demand and supply side. So again, for the supply of skills, that will look like upskilling. That would look like new entrants and junior talent. If I think about the apprenticeship program that we participated at JP Morgan in the last couple of years, student interns, as well as upskilling, migration into Luxembourg. So we need also to bring in talent. We need to incentivize that by being a great place to work and develop your career. If I think about the demand side, then I think for what we do here within Luxembourg today, to define what we do tomorrow into the future, it may look different, and how global organizations like a JP Morgan think about Luxembourg and the purpose and the people and what they do on the ground day to day, then that can change. And if I think about other locations and, for example, tax incentives that might encourage organisations to place more product design and development on the ground, then that can be an important tool so that those roles are considered for Luxembourg, whereas today they might be in other locations. So again, if we get the supply side right and also actually encourage different roles to be placed that are not here today, then I think that's a great outcome.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've had already a very international track record so far. Allow me to also then end with a question on how would you compare the talent market in Europe with other regions in the world, such as Asia or the US?
I've worked at JP Morgan 30 years now, and I've spent the last 6 years in Luxembourg. And I would say that it's been the best 6 years of my career, and also the time in my career where I've developed most. So why is that compared to other locations? Then I think being at the heart of Europe gives you an exposure and understanding. It's an incredibly diverse country and peoples within it. It's a place where organisations like JP Morgan and other financial organisations, and you mentioned, the emerging companies in the space, then we all collaborate also to ensure that the ecosystem and the value of Luxembourg is understood and it's also appreciated globally. So I think you can have a career here that the proximity to industry, to decision making, can actually really allow you to achieve your potential here. Compared to other locations, they have all of that, but I think that the size and nature and the importance of finance here within Luxembourg makes it different and very attractive.
Michael, thank you very much. You have mentioned a lot of important points that I'm sure will also still come back in the next panels. I would like to wish you the very best for the next 10 to 15 years of your career.
Maybe 30. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next guest will now focus on one of the biggest and most important shifts in financial services, sustainable finance. Paul Chahine is the Sustainability Research Manager at the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, and he's also responsible for the daily management of the Luxembourg Green Exchange Academy. And I also encourage you to check out their website. He will talk to Sinor, who was appointed Managing Director of Nordea Investment Funds last year. She's a member of the Management Committee and has spent her entire professional career in financial services and also in many governance-related functions. Paul, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Lynn, and welcome everyone to this discussion around focusing on skills in the finance sector. And what is better than talking about skills in sustainable finance with an expert of the field, Ms. Sinor, Managing Director at Nordea Investment Funds. Welcome, Ms. Chhor. It's a privilege to have this discussion with you today.
Thank you for the invitation, Paul.
ESG knowledge has become crucial given the rapid development in the financial sector. The finance industry in general understood, and we understood in Luxembourg and at the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, that without addressing the knowledge gap, accelerating sustainable finance would be a slow process and a bigger challenge than it already is. Looking at the wider picture, Ms. Chhor, sustainable finance expertise has gained a lot of importance these days, and maybe on the funds and asset management levels, it's even much important. Why do you think this is?
I would say that it is a combination of two factors, mainly. First, the growing demand from our clients, which actually drive also the need to create new product and new services, but then also combining to this the evolution of the regulatory landscape around sustainable finance, which then also forces organization to build more expertise and more knowledge in that space. And I think what we see is that functions that existed some 10 years ago, which were referred to as head of sustainable investment or impact investment, for example, have been transitioning into new type of roles and now using a more common jargon and in the ESG with responsible of investment, for example. So I would say that it's a transition from existing roles to new functions and new titles as well.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you that even the financial sector is transitioning to become more sustainable. But I'm not really sure if this applies also to building expertise in the field, because sometimes you need maybe to recycle the old expertise or the already existing expertise that you have in the company or in the entity, while at the same time you're receiving these newcomers who are kind of ESG pure profile. And maybe the genesis behind the search for talent in sustainable finance is interesting also to look at.
If I can make the parallel, Paul, of what the financial sector has experienced some 15 years ago with the risk and compliance functions, for example, I think at the time external factors put pressure on organization to build risk culture or a compliance culture across the organization, but at the same time building units that were responsible for managing the risk or managing the compliance organization of companies. And I think what we experience exactly the same, that we all want to, organization are forced by external factors and here the regulation to build an ESG culture in their organization. And you can do it in different ways. Either you build an independent unit to be the expert in that space, or creating a knowledge and training around that across the entire organization.
Then do you think that professionals need only to have a little bit of passion around sustainable finance or ESG to become expert, or a concrete expertise in sustainable finance is needed in the field? And maybe if I formulate it differently, actually, how do you train? How do you prepare people? How do you train people in this field?
To your first question, first, I think you need both. You need to be passionate in that space, in that matter, and but it needs to be combined with a deep understanding of the regulation. I think what we have seen from a couple of years ago is that having a general understanding of the regulation was sufficient, but then as the evolution evolved over time, then organization also needed to have some people having deep understanding and knowledge about these regulations. And more particularly, I would say, people having a good understanding of the business processes and how those regulations actually impact those processes. I think these people will really have a competitive edge.
From what we see actually in the market, and definitely through the LHoFT Academy that we have, the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, some participants actually come with a concrete and solid, working experience in the finance sector, and they want to make this shift towards becoming more sustainable. How do you see all different types of functions within the entity or the company will be kind of impacted by the sustainable finance? And do you think that actually there is a premium in working in sustainable finance?
I think ESG is a complex discipline, and it touches a lot of the entire value chain of our organization, being it the investment teams, the risk team, compliance team, client-facing team. So it really touches the entire organization. And I think everybody will have to move into that field sooner or later. I think the speed to which certain organizations in moving into that space depends on the strategies, but also on the maturity of the organizations. I would say it really touches the entire organization. And to your question as to whether there will be a premium for these people having an ESG knowledge. I think definitely, as I said, the people who would have a deeper understanding of these regulations and a good understanding on how they impact their business processes will be the ones really being in search for companies.
I believe that having this kind of basic knowledge about ESG should be definitely mandatory for everyone within an entity to make this kind of smooth shift and transition in the entity or the company or in the financial sector. What would be your advice actually if I need to deepen my knowledge in sustainable finance?
I think nowadays you have a really wide spectrum of training that can be offered to you. The asset managers are creating in-house training program that we use both for our staff members but also for clients. And then at the same time, what we see is that professionals of the financial sectors are also offering their own training. So Big Four companies, legal advisors companies as well, are offering a wide range of training programs that people can take in order to deepen their knowledge. And at the same time, also companies have partnered with universities and also with other educational associations to create also trainings that could tackle this new wave of regulation.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is what we see actually in the market. And maybe a very last question: do you think that this would make working in the finance sector more attractive?
I definitely think that this is an opportunity that this sustainable financing is creating with new roles. I mean, if you look today at the job ads, it's new that you see recruitment for a head of a sustainable investment or an ESG leader or an ESG analyst. These are functions that were not existing some couple of years ago. So definitely opportunities, but at the same time, also challenges for organizations to find the right talent.
Thank you so much for your insights that you shared with us today, Ms. Chhor.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul and Sinor. It's clear that climate change and the protection of our planet are of the highest importance, and therefore we also need to build the necessary expertise on all the different levels of the financial services value chain. And now we will change topics. We will look at the service providers. We will, especially as finance becomes more global and intertwined, we will look at the opportunities for lawyers, for auditors, and also for accountants, and also how they can find solutions to both old and new challenges. The speakers that just joined me in the studio are Pascal, Denis, partner and chief strategy at Deloitte. We have Steve Jacoby, regional manager for Continental Europe at Clifford, and Vanessa Müller, partner at Ernst & Young. Pascal, Steve, Vanessa, a warm welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Pascal, let me start with you, because many public and private companies are turning to the Big Four for critical advisory in many different subjects and also related to tax and accountancy. And I guess they also turn to you for that more innovative edge. Now, my question is, how do you make sure that your organization and also your people stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah. It's a big question to start with many dimensions. And probably a question which is relevant in Luxembourg, given the international nature and dynamic nature of the business. And probably starting with the basics, I would say we are all people businesses. So the first thing is probably looking at the most creative, innovative, and smart people. And probably we're looking at all the smartest and the most innovative, but also the most diverse workforce. Because innovation and creativity in organizations start with the people and start with diverse and innovative and smart people. But it's not enough. It's also about the context we create for these people to nurture innovation, that sense of creativity. And there's different things we have to create that context. For instance, we've got innovation centers in all different organizations. We have innovation contests, internal, but also with clients, and sometimes also working with third-party companies, fintech startups. And last but not least, there's also that ability to bring innovation into Luxembourg from our international network. Because sometimes innovating is reusing, localizing, adapting here, something that works elsewhere.
Steve, I would like to continue on the first question and look at a more strategic level as well on the law firm side. In order to meet the current and the future demands, how do you make sure that you attract the right talent to meet the demands?
So the role of the law firms has traditionally obviously been to provide legal advice on transactions, on litigation, and we obviously still do that. But the way we need to look at our clients' projects to become ever more innovative is that we need to look at the innovation that they are using and trying to understand them so that we can really give them the right advice in terms of managing legal and regulatory risk. And the other thing we need to do is also change the way in which we're providing services. The management of a matter for a lawyer becomes ever more complex. We have bigger teams working on really the global transactions. And as a result, we have to change the way we do things also internally. So we're using various methods to improve the ways we deliver our services. And we try to make of our lawyers not only lawyers, but also problem solvers, and to an extent also legal project managers. And in order to do that, we provide additional training, but we also hire, as Pascal already said, a much more diverse workforce, including non-legal specialists in the area of legal technology, as well as specialists in project management, or we train our lawyers in project management skills in order to provide the service in a much more integrated way.
Mm-hmm. Vanessa, the Big Four, they hire many people on a yearly basis and also train them. Where do you see the biggest skill gaps, and what are those hard and soft skills that are critically needed in an international financial hub?
Yeah, no, it's true. I think one of the characteristics of our firms is that we work in a constantly evolving context. So we have to adapt to that, and the challenges, they come from new regulations, they can come from innovation and progress in general, they come from client needs, they also come from people expectations. So it's quite a large variety of skills that we need to have. I would say that these days you've heard of ESG, so that's definitely one of the key trends, and very important to find this kind of expertise and knowledge. Regulation will be true, I think, for always in the financial services industry for the next years. Innovation and technology you mentioned, but I would say that also next to these hard skills, we also value soft skills, like I would say entrepreneurship is very important in our profession. The way to anticipate those changes, the capacity also to deliver beyond your comfort zone, this is very important. I would say this is also what makes the fun of our daily activities.
Mm-hmm. Pascal, anything you would like to add on the hard and soft skills and the going beyond the comfort zone?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that has been said. Probably would stress one element, which is the combination. I think we live in a complex world with ever-changing dimensions, big in technology and business regulations, and probably that ability to combine technology and business and technology, in addition to, for some people, having deep business skills or financial skills or deep technology skill is really something that really matters, and that we also invest a lot in to train people to get to those levels.
Now, who says technology also says robot. So Vanessa, how can the advisor today, or even the accountant or the auditor, how can they beat the robot or be complementary to the robot?
Yeah, I don't know if we should use the word beat, rather be complementary. That's very true. It's been now a couple of years since we have the question of the automation of our processes, etc. And I really believe this is something that is supporting the way we operate, but also how we serve our clients. So I would rather see this as an enabler. And I would even say that today this is something that is fully part of our business as usual. So it's embedded in our processes, it's embedded in our methodologies. And I believe that people also welcome this because it's the opportunity to shift from administrative tasks or from repetitive tasks to more focusing on innovation, focusing on added value, also focusing on human interaction. So I rather see this as an opportunity.
Steve, focusing a little bit more on the legal function, from 2008 until now, we have been dealing with a financial services law that has increased exponentially. How do you ensure you have the proper expertise and resources to cover that? And is maybe even legal software of any help?
Well, it can be. I think the lawyer today needs to factor in two ways of dealing with technology in the work we do. The first one is the way we deliver our work. And there, indeed, we are, as any other businesses, we are using technology in order to make our processes more efficient. And the lawyer needs to be able to understand those processes so as to use them properly. And even we also sort of include development of legal, what's called legal tech or legal software, what you refer to. And I would say we are using, to come back to what Vanessa just said, we're using technology really in a way to support our services. So we can use sort of data analysis tools when we have to do due diligence work. We will be using automated drafting for certain types of standard contracts in order to become more efficient and to ensure that we can provide the best service. The other element of this is that our clients are moving ever more, particularly in Luxembourg, in very complex technological developments and using innovation in the way that they themselves operate in their business. And that's something else that lawyers need to understand in order to provide the legal advice in the correct way and ensure that we help our clients manage legal and regulatory risk. Just to use an example, if lawyers advise on digital platforms, they don't necessarily have to be able to code the platforms. That's not their job, obviously, but they need to understand what the platform does in order to properly appreciate the risks and help the client with that. So in terms of the skills that this requires from the lawyers is a greater openness to technology, a willingness to understand, and then to apply the law and the regulations to those new facts in the best possible way.
Pascal, I would like to continue a little bit on that tech savviness also for service providers. Can you give a little bit of additional perspective on how tech savvy does one need to become in order to also answer the future needs?
Well, building on what Steve said, I think these days it's not anymore a question of a lawyer, an auditor, an advisor to be knowledgeable in technology or a banker. It's a must, right? It's a must. And some go deeper than others. But financial services companies have become technology company in the meantime. Digital transformation is on its way. It's not over yet. We've got cloud transformation coming up, blockchain, artificial intelligence, data analytics, cybersecurity, are all areas where technology is of importance, and to us it's important. So how do we stay ahead of the curve? Of course, we buy skills. That's traditional recruitments, but it's not enough. Mm-hmm. We also build skills by investing a lot in training our people at all levels, in all capacities, in technology, mm-hmm. to make them technology literate, and of course, also having deep technology expert. Mm-hmm. And there's a third dimension, which is borrowing, next to buying and building skills. Mm-hmm. Borrowing means for us, borrowing skills from another country where some technology skills are available, or borrowing from market participants, contractors that bring that additional edge that we need in our business.
In addition to technology, what was also mentioned earlier is sustainable finance, ESG. Steve, how does the future lawyer need to integrate that as well to succeed in practice?
Well, I mean, today a lawyer, again, like every other member of a professional services profession, will need to take a holistic view when you advise your clients. It's not just about the law. When you try to identify and manage legal regulatory risk and helping your client in trying to navigate those really ever more complex regulations, you need to look at the context in which the client is operating. And that will include, as you said, ESG, sustainability, governance elements, social elements, etc. It will also include sort of the looking ahead at what regulatory changes will be coming to also help your clients sort of future-proof the projects that they're working on, and obviously take into account in what is an ever more complex world, macroeconomic risks, geopolitical risk, etc. Now, this doesn't distract from the fact that it's still the legal advice and the regulatory advice that you're giving, but this needs to happen in this kind of context. And one of the ways that, particularly in Luxembourg, is necessary to do this, to take a look on the global level, because in Luxembourg, obviously, more than probably many other places in the world, these sort of aspects always take on a sort of global significance because of the way that the people in Luxembourg and the businesses in Luxembourg operate.
Pascal, anything you would like to add on the ESG? Any preference for a letter, the E, the S, the G?
I think all of them, because I truly believe that what, in terms of the skills that are really required for the future in ESG, in any other areas, the key and fundamental skill set that people should bring is curiosity and agility, because there's no way we can predict what skill set is required in the future. So with agility, curiosity, we can all get people on board that are able to, to stay on the curve and to build on those new skills, be it in the E, in the S, or in the G, or in the T, like technology.
Vanessa, maybe one of the most important questions I've kept until the end, because it's also often on many people's minds. The Big Four are an excellent place to start a career, but how do you overcome that churn factory perception? Because I guess that you also need to deal with a certain loss of knowledge or of competence of people that afterwards move on to other firms. How are careers developed in the Big Four, and how do you model this?
Yeah, I can speak a bit about my experience, because I started in the Big Four thinking I would stay there for 2-3 years as a booster for my career. And then 20 years later, I'm still in the Big Four. So I probably got caught by the amazing opportunities. But when you start, you develop technical skills on the content, on an industry, so you learn to operate. Then you get to manage a team, you get to manage people, participate to recruitment, you learn to manage people. And then more and more, you also get management of an account, the opportunity to develop new businesses or originate solutions. So you learn to create value. And when all this comes together after the years, basically you end up almost owning and operating your own little business within the company. So that's intellectually extremely stimulating and really captivating. Needless to say that you also get to meet a variety of people, of clients, of projects. So it's again, it's extremely large in terms of what you get to, what you are exposed to. That's one important element. And the other one is, I think it's really a place, our firms, where you can develop a sense of purpose. So you really have the opportunity, be it via a project again, a client, or even internally, to attain the why you're actually taking this kind of job. So that's, again, something that is extremely motivating. And I see our careers in those models really as you are in the driving seat and you can basically decide what will be your journey.
It's very interesting, and I think also more and more people are looking for meaning in their jobs. And I think the three speakers today, all of you have brought a lot of meaning also to innovation in service providers. So I would like to thank you very much for joining us here in the studio. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now let's move to more digital spheres and more specifically fintech firms. I will give the floor to Alex Panican, who is the Deputy CEO of the LHoFT, the Luxembourg House of Financial Technology. And he will speak with Alla Presenti, co-founder and head of finance and administration at MONIFLO. They will take a closer look at the opportunities and also the challenges related to talent attraction, more specifically in in fintech firms. Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, everybody. We just heard from Michael Fox about talent in the financial industry. Now, let's talk about talent in the fintech industry. And I have the great pleasure to have with me today Ala Presenti from MONIFLO. Ala, welcome.
Hello, Alex. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much, Luxembourg for Finance, for having us.
Yes, it's great. So, Ala, tell us a little bit about MONIFLO and who are you?
I am co-founder and head of finance and administration at MONIFLO, and we are a Luxembourgish fintech startup, and we're trying to build a new stock exchange which will be blockchain powered. So, it will be in the end delivered in form of an app and a platform for value-based investors. So as you can see, we are ticking a lot of boxes when it comes about tech profiles. And in less than 1 year, we hired around 10 people. And so far, we managed to have a good mix of tech profiles from front-end, back-end, mobile developer, blockchain specialist, IT product manager, or even big data and AI profiles. As I mentioned to you, we are a Luxembourgish-based startup. And for us, from the beginning, it was very important to have our core team based here in Luxembourg, even if for a startup, you can imagine, it was not an easy decision to take. From financial perspective, but we believe that the teams bring value when they are together, when they put together their energy and their ideas.
Very fascinating and very ambitious, and you are ticking a lot of boxes indeed. Blockchain, finance, investment, AI. Must be quite challenging to find those profiles, but also to attract them. How do you do it? What are the challenges first?
You pointed it very well. Indeed, it is first challenge is to find them because it's, for example, our main skill for the tech is, even if we talk about back-end or front-end, we talk about profiles who have blockchain experience. And blockchain, it's not new, but still quite new, and it's a skill that it's mainly acquired in finance industry. So for us, it's very difficult to find those profiles here in Luxembourg. And also to attract them to join Luxembourg, because we all know the good profiles, they either prefer to go to work somewhere outside Europe, or they prefer to go to work for the big tech, and we cannot compete with their remuneration package. So it is quite challenging to attract those people.
But still, you managed to hire more than 10 people in less than 1 year. So you might have some, I don't know, secret formula. What's your secret to attract them?
If I can make a small joke, I always say that people are not joining startups for money, or at least not early startups as we are.
They do have hope. The startup will make money, but it's
yes,
not the first.
That's exactly. So basically, as we say, we are a platform which target value-based investors, and we also want to have value-based employees, right? So. I could see it's very interesting because when I was conducting interviews, I could see a trend of tech people and why they prefer to join startups comparing to big companies is that they want to create a tangible impact. They want to bring value. They want to see that they are making a direct contribution. And this is the place where you can do it in a startup, right? Because you have the opportunity to build something from scratch. And also, in order to attract them, what we offer, I would say it's one of our points, is we offer them the possibility to become a shareholder if they want, right? So you have the option to go and work for something that you basically own. And in the end, share-based remuneration is something that not only us, but a lot of other tech companies or startups can easily adopt.
Yeah, so and I agree with you. I mean, that's first of all why I've left the banking sector to launch my own startup, because I wanted to find some meaning. But we know that 20 years ago, most students, high-profile students, were living for the big banks, for the JP Morgans of this world. Today, they are leaving schools, but they don't want to work for the banks. They want to work for the startups, and well paid if it's possible. But still, they want meaning in their life. So I fully agree with you. So, Ala, we all know that we face challenges in Luxembourg regarding attracting and keeping talent, and you mentioned some of them. Housing is one of them. But still, you managed to sell Luxembourg to 10 people. So, what's your selling point? What do you tell them? Where the opportunity in Luxembourg resides for a fintech?
The main thing I would like to mention, and that's something that, again, I observed as a trend when conducting interviews, is that candidates, especially those outside Luxembourg, they are not aware about the ecosystem of startups that we have here in Luxembourg, because most of the people still believe that Luxembourg is about old traditional banks or investment funds. So all the time when I try to sell people Luxembourg, I always mention to them, look, we have this ecosystem environment of around 200 or even more than 200 startups. There is a huge opportunity for growth, and I believe we need to put more emphasis on the opportunity for growth that Luxembourg has. You know, if I look back 8 years ago when I came to Luxembourg comparing to now, you see a lot of transformation in terms of digitalization, in terms of expansion of the city, of how vibrant it become. I'm not talking only about business, but about community as well. Yes, so I always try to tell people that this is a fantastic place to live. You know, I always say that to me, there is not a place in Europe where I would see myself working or living. And it's because of this vibrant community, this international community that we have around. I mean, we are the only country in Europe with almost 50% percentage of expats, right, from the total population. So I think this is a unique value that we have in Europe. And yet, a lot of people don't know about this. And I think we need to promote this more.
So I guess it would be one of your advice to us, even for Luxembourg for Finance or for the LHoFT, is to more sell Luxembourg in building our awareness about what's going on in the fintech industry.
Yes.
What would be then your advice to common fintechs that want to build a business today in Luxembourg regarding talent, how to attract them, how to keep them, but also maybe to the government? What can be done? What should we do more to make Luxembourg more attractive?
There are a lot of, I think this topic needs a separate discussion, but what I see as a trend, and it's very important for new companies that want to come to Luxembourg, and I think for all of us it's very, very relevant, is the trend that COVID brought about the type of work that we do, how much is flexible, how much is remote. We see now that more and more people want to work fully remote, or they want to have more flexibility. And I think, especially for Luxembourg, where we are so dependent on even people coming from neighboring countries or from other candidates coming outside from Luxembourg, we need to adapt to this trend, and we need to be able to offer them more flexibility in terms of work. And we know, and personally I had the case of 2 candidates which rejected the offer to move to Luxembourg because I asked them to have them here in Luxembourg. I wanted, as I mentioned, our core team is here and we want to have people here. We want to create value in Luxembourg. And when I told them, look, we are flexible, but we still want you to have mainly in Luxembourg, they rejected our offer. So you see, this to me was a red flag, and we need to find how to address it so people can come to Luxembourg, but also they can have the flexibility to work, be it for 1 month or for 2 weeks, a year in another location where they want to be present. Mm-hmm. So I see this adaptability to the working place, I think is very important, because you see this trend, there are big companies out there that already made it publicly, public information that they offer full remote work for their staff anywhere in the world. Yes. So when you have this trend, and then in Luxembourg, when you struggle to attract talents, if you don't find a way to close this gap, people will not choose Luxembourg.
Did you go back to those 2 people who refused and tell them, you know what, you're going to work from home?
No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that because, as I said, we want people to be here. And especially when you build something from the scratch, I think it's very important. It might be different when you have already a setup done, you have a running business. I think you can play around, but for us, it was very important to have people here.
When you build the company, yes. Also building the culture.
Exactly.
And you need to have people in the same office, at least.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's talk about a little bit, we are running out of time. Let's talk about the future, Ella. if you're closing your eyes, how do you see the future of work, the future of talent in Luxembourg or abroad?
So in terms of future of work, to be very short, we need to stay flexible. We need to adapt to the global trends of work, to have a mix of both, or from home, work abroad, to offer the flexibility to our employees. And as a companies, government, startups, we need to keep adapting to the new trends, because this is the only way to remain relevant and competitive on the market, on the international markets.
Awesome. So can we do anything about it to make sure that we get there? On the flexibility side, you know, it's interesting because you say the future work will be flexible, will be digital, partially digital, yes. But I also see it as fascinating because we might even have jobs that are not existing yet. We have happy officers today that didn't exist, 5 years ago. I don't know if you have maybe specific jobs in mind that we don't foresee yet.
I'm pretty sure, and that this is exactly what I wanted to touch about, keep adapting, because the only way to survive is to adapt. And what I always see that digitalization, it brings new opportunities. And we need to keep our minds and eyes open and to anticipate the trends and to make sure that we have the right skills, right solutions, right energy focused towards embracing those new challenges.
Awesome, and it's indeed focusing on the skills. Thank you so much, Ala. Folks, I'm not finished yet. So we know that talent is key. The quality of your people defines the quality of our organization, and you said it very well. But it also defines the well-being of our society. So as you said, Ala, I think it's the time to act is now if we want to build a better future for Luxembourg. So Lynn, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Alex. And our final guest in the studio is Stéphane Pallage, the rector of the University of Luxembourg, where he's also a full professor in economics. Prior to joining the University of Luxembourg, he was a professor at the University of Quebec in Montreal and also the head of the management school there. Stéphane, we are very honored to have you here in the studio. Okay. Given your incredible academic track record, we would be very happy if you could explain to us how education programs, and especially in STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, can build that valuable bridge to finance and potentially also open doors in Kirchberg or Wall Street or even the city. Stéphane, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lynn. What a program. STEM go hand in hand with finance and economics. The marriage started probably 60 years ago. A lot of discoveries in finance were in fact made by mathematicians, by physicists. There are several Nobel Prizes in economics that were awarded to mathematicians like John Nash, Ed Prescott, Debreu, Allais, Oman, to name just a few. Mathematics has been very, very present in my own studies. As a young PhD student in the United States, I was at Carnegie Mellon, the graduate school of business at the time. Probably half my classes were STEM classes, mostly mathematics, statistics, probability theory, and they were extremely useful in what was later my research field, dynamic programming. I am not a finance graduate yet. I've met very many. I've met leaders of the industry. And clearly, mathematics, STEM, more generally, is more and more more needed on the market. We can explain this by the availability of data by the need to actually make those data speak. Computer science and other tools are extremely important today. And of course, the universities have to adapt, and we have adapted. We have reviewed all our finance programs in the past few years, and we did that by collaborating with the financial sector. So we have now programs that are much more adapted to the current need of the Kirchberg market. But of course, what is true for Kirchberg is also true for Wall Street, and our graduates do find extremely good jobs. Now, there are programs in finance. There are also programs in mathematics that can lead to a career in finance. One of the newest programs we have at the university is a program in data science, which is open to computer scientists, to mathematicians who want to analyze those big data and provide the correct algorithm to make this data actually tell us something. In finance, we have, as I said, reviewed our programs, and we opened 2 new tracks, one in digital finance and one in sustainable finance, 2 very important fields that are also quite important in Luxembourg for the diversification of the financial sector. Competition on the market is incredible. It has always been very fierce in finance, but today the banks, the financial companies actually face the competition of tech firms like Google. So the competition, I would say, has never been more fierce than it is today. Competencies are in short supply. For the graduates, it's a treat, it's a chance. It's actually a seller's market, which means that it's an ideal time for anyone to invest in education. It's probably also an ideal time for anyone who has been on the market for quite a while to reinvest in education, and I would highly recommend continuing education several times in a lifetime. Why is finance so important today? I think education in finance is key not just for those who want to work in the financial sector. It is key for anyone. We should teach finance very early on. I'm talking here about the promotion of financial literacy. If people were more literate in the questions relating to finance, it is clear that we would avoid a lot of financial problems, crises like the ones we've experienced not so long ago, and the subprime crisis could probably have been avoided if the general public had been more educated about finance. We could avoid a lot of those problems, and I would say that STEM can help us there too. By, for example, creating video games related to financial investment, we could teach the younger generation a lot about what they can expect later in their life, even though they may never touch the financial market as a worker. But in their personal life, these tools can be extremely important. Now, I would say a word on the market itself. Clearly, there are many graduates around the world in finance, in mathematics, in physics, in engineering. They can all contribute to the financial market, to the financial sector. We see, however, that even though women represent 50% of the workforce in the United States, they account for less than 25% of the jobs that are related to STEM. I think that's a pity. I think that's a pity because women excel when they actually enter the STEM fields. So this is an appeal to young girls who have to decide what to do of their future. Investing in physics, in mathematics, is always good. They will have excellent opportunities on the job market. Including in finance, and we know, and Lynn, you know, that the job market in finance is extremely good and offers career perspectives that are very rich and very rewarding. So I will probably conclude with this. STEM is important, has always been, but is more important than ever. I would recommend to any student in high school to consider STEM fields and economics and finance as career opportunities. And in particular, I would reach out to girls who could make a very important impact in those fields. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stéphane. And even if STEM is not one of the easiest subjects to choose, I'm convinced that you have been able to convince many of us and many of the people that are listening, and I hope also many girls, that STEM is that valuable bridge to finance. Thank you, Stéphane.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and that brings us already to the end of this live stream. Hopefully, the discussions of today's speakers have opened the door to new insights and also new opportunities. And even if the fast-paced environment and the required expertise can feel challenging, we should not forget that financial services still presents one of the best opportunities to work with different clients and different colleagues across geographies and also across industries. And financial services is also one of the most fascinating sectors because it keeps the finger on the pulse of economic activity worldwide and also the human behavior that is linked to it. I would like to thank you, the audience, for connecting with us today, and I would also like to thank all the speakers that came here to the studio and made this event a success. And if you have any questions, then don't hesitate to reach out to our team or to check out our two websites, luxembourgforfinance.com and movetolux.com. On these websites, you will find plenty of practical information, as well as one of the reports that I mentioned in my introduction about the future jobs and skills in finance. Our CEO, Nicolas Mackel, will close the year on 14 December with a focus on 2023. He will turn to next year and what it will hold for financial services operating internationally. Keep also an eye on our event calendar because next year we will be back with new topics. Until then, I wish you a lovely week ahead. Thank you and goodbye.